I want you to imagine, just for a moment, that the internet is a country. For all of history, humans lived in a physical location, but now we inhabit a digital space. The country of internet is a place you visit effortlessly. You discover news, learn new things, make commercial transactions, find friends and build communities. No matter where you live, you can connect with anyone. People from different backgrounds and opinions. Some of its appeal is that you can make your own choices. You're free. It doesn't feel like anything governs your interactions. But is this really true? A handful of companies have built and control the infrastructure of internet. And one of these companies has the power to command our attention and influence our behaviour at such a large scale that it's arguably reshaping our culture and changing society altogether. As a citizen of the internet, are you just cool with this? It may not come as a surprise that we're talking about Facebook, a corner of the internet where 2.2 billion people spend their online time. Facebook's main goal, as its co-founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg wrote in his 6,000-word manifesto in 2017, is to be the social infrastructure for communities. Engagement with traditional communities like churches and unions has declined in the past few decades, Facebook says, so it wants to step up and fill the gap. With this many users, one company has a huge influence over how a quarter of the planet's population interacts. More power than any government or religion has ever had. So, is Facebook the new church for online society? First, let's consider one of the roles religious institutions play in society: influencing cultural norms.
Cultural norms are a very old historic concept. They've existed basically since humans have existed. They are described as the grammar of social interactions, and they really tell you how you should act in certain situations. And we have those very entrenched offline, but online is kind of a new terrain, a new space for us to start building these out.
Except, is it really us building these new social norms? By design, Facebook pushes us to act in a certain way without us quite realising it. Take a simple example, the reaction emoticons, the 6 ways you can express your feelings. So, are you angry or sad? Do you like or love something? Or is everything just wow?
And Facebook is basically saying to you, great, you've got a reaction, you've got to use those, and that's really all you've got. Of course you can comment, but you know, the convenience aspect of using those reactions is very much there. And so they lead you halfway down a path, and it's your decision then to push back or to continue with what they're suggesting to you. And the problem is we're pretty social animals, right? We're going to kind of go along with the convention.
And these conventions have spread. As Facebook have implemented more and more innovative tools to bring everything we do offline to online, it's changed how we experience things. Celebrations like birthdays have become popularity contests. Events that leave a trace on Facebook may rank higher in our long-term memory because the platform reminds you they occurred. Mourning over a loved one has become a trying quest to dodge untimely reminders in a minefield of memories. And for a younger generation, public memories are a new norm.
I'll leave social media and I'll feel bad about myself. Something interesting, like my parents were telling me, my mom was like, yeah, when I was younger, if there was like a party or a bunch of people were hanging out, maybe I'd hear about it the next day on Monday, but it'd be over. It wouldn't be permanently in somebody's feed. But now, if one of my friends does something with another friend, or like a bunch of my friends and I wasn't invited, now forever in that person's feed is this record of somewhere I wasn't.
Beyond affecting us personally, these platform features are having a broader impact on society. Or consider how Facebook has changed mass grief, the way we process and publicly react to national tragedies and deaths of public figures. Once high-profile deaths like JFK's and Princess Diana's drew masses of people onto the street. But now we have #RIP to express our sadness. With profile photo filters and safety checks, Facebook is showing us what the appropriate mourning behaviour looks like. By deciding when to activate these features, it nudges us as to which tragedy to pay attention to and take solidarity with.
So I started my research back, way back at the Paris attacks. It came at quite an important crosswire. Most of Europe, and in fact most of the world, had suddenly moved on to Facebook. They were quite settled in using it in their day-to-day basis. And once the events happened, they were very tragic, but increasingly straight afterwards, we saw this outpouring of grief. It was almost like a beacon lighting up the digital highway, right? This hashtag Pray for Paris. It came out of nowhere and suddenly had huge traction, millions and millions and millions of followers.
So what's in it for Facebook? Why is a platform that started out as a tool to connect friends interested in becoming a place where the majority of our social interactions happen? Well, by bringing offline activities online, Facebook tightens its grip on our time and attention. And in return, we collectively increase the company's revenue.
It becomes quite clear over time that there are these conscious decisions being made. And that, for me, is where I get a bit uncomfortable, is we're outsourcing the emotional labour to these corporate companies who unfortunately are incentivized by bottom line. And you start thinking, what are the decisions that they're making? Why are they making them? And how are they funding them?
Facebook's innovative tools have ensured you'll be constantly alerted about a few birthdays or a few memories, and then stay a little longer to send a message, or stay glued to the screen during a mass tragedy. Now, these are just some examples of how Facebook has changed these different aspects of our lives. But for some people, Facebook has changed their whole reality. Even if you don't use Facebook, this is affecting you. I'm talking about filter bubbles, which make the internet look entirely different to different people. And they shouldn't be called bubbles really, because they're as tough as concrete to burst. There's no doubt that a lot of good has come out of connecting people online and growing communities. But Facebook seems to have an outsized effect on bringing about the worst in people. Take, for example, a 2018 study that analysed every anti-refugee attack in Germany over 2 years and found that nothing about the local communities, not affluence level, social demographics, or right versus left politics, mattered. The only thing that stood out as a factor linked with the number of hate crimes was Facebook use. And this is far from what we all envisioned when we started posting cute photos on Facebook more than a decade ago. So where did it all go wrong?
So the way these platforms work these days, somebody doesn't sit and say, let's make sure people either see very cute cuddly stuff or really outrageous stuff, because those are both things that engage. What happens is you have an artificial intelligence system that operates by churning through a lot of data. It's a method called machine learning. And after churning through all that data, it's like, okay, this one works better, this one works better. And that's what's picking up on human vulnerabilities. So the way I explain this sometimes is that as humans, we have regular cravings for salty food. And you got this sort of artificial intelligence thing that's like, ooh, if I put potato chips on their plate, they're gonna eat it. And it's designed to keep you eating, so it just keeps putting potato chips on your plate. Nobody's telling it to do that. It's figured us out. So we have a business model that's just feeding off polarization, and then the more polarized we become, it kind of just keeps going at it.
People have always had a taste for this. We're drawn towards sensational stories and news that plays off our fears and confirms our beliefs. The result of all of this is that Facebook can create a distorted reality. People's behaviours in the real world are influenced by what they perceive is a social norm in their community. But Facebook can disrupt that process by throwing us only into like-minded groups. You already know that social media can hijack your attention. It can impact your mood and productivity. This personal cost, though, pales in comparison to the larger implication on the society we live in. Our personal matters, like the delivery of a birthday wish or the grieving of a loved one, have become public, and to the benefit of the new institutions. The impact of all of this spills offline into the real world. In all societies, culture is formed by exposure, repetition, and acceptance. But in the country of the internet, there's no policy or a citizen council to think and decide if this is the way we want to go in the future. It's true that culture changes and society evolves, but the question for us is, are we happy for corporations who are funded by the amount of time people spend on their platform to guide the way? This is the third episode in a 6-part series on the psychology of attention, persuasive design, and our relationship with technology. So I do hope you'll join us in your own time and at your own pace to consider the impact tech is having on your everyday life. Thanks.